Unexpected encounter. Dr. Elara Vance stepped off the shuttle onto Nexus Station, her heart racing with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The sprawling space station hung in orbit around a gas giant, its gleaming silver spires and twisting corridors home to dozens of alien species. As humanity's leading xenobiologist, Elara had been chosen to represent Earth in delicate negotiations with the Galactic Council. Her mission, to secure humanity a seat at the interstellar table. The docking bay bustled with activity. Beings of all shapes and sizes hurried past, some gliding on anti-gravity discs, others scuttling on multiple legs. Elara took a deep breath, savoring the mix of unfamiliar scents, spicy, metallic, and something reminiscent of ozone. She straightened her crisp blue uniform, emblazoned with the United Earth emblem, and strode towards the customs area. A tall, willowy alien with iridescent skin greeted her. "Welcome to Nexus Station, Dr. Vance. I am Zixara, your liaison. Please follow me for processing." Elara nodded, following Zixara through a series of checkpoints. Her translator earpiece buzzed softly as it processed the cacophony of alien languages around her. As they approached the final security scanner, a commotion erupted near one of the other processing lines. Two identical aliens, each nearly 7 feet tall with sleek, feline features and luminous purple skin, were arguing heatedly with a security officer. Their long prehensile tails lashed back and forth in agitation. "What's going on?" Elara asked Zixara, her scientific curiosity piqued. The liaison's bioluminescent patterns flickered in what Elara had learned was a sign of concern. Those Illyrians, twins by the look of it, they're usually a peaceful species, but oh no. Before Elara could ask for clarification, alarms began blaring throughout the docking bay. Red lights flashed and translucent force fields sprang up, dividing the area into sections. "Attention all beings," a calm voice announced in multiple languages. "A Level 1 quarantine is now in effect. Please remain in your current section and await further instructions." Elara found herself cut off from Zixara, trapped in a small waiting area with the two agitated Lyrians. The security officer who had been processing them was now sealed on the other side of the force field, looking flustered. "What's happening?" Elara asked, trying to keep her voice steady. One of the Lyrians turned to her, golden eyes narrowing. "You, human, this is your fault." Elara blinked in surprise. What? How could this be my fault? I just arrived." The other Lyrian placed a hand on her twin's arm. "Calm yourself, Nyara. The human couldn't have known." Nyara hissed softly but seemed to relax slightly at her sister's touch. "Fine, Liara, but now we're stuck here, and time is running out." Elara's scientific mind kicked into overdrive, analyzing the situation. The Lyrian's agitation, the quarantine, the cryptic comments about time running out. There were too many unknowns. She needed more data. "I'm Dr. Elara Vance, xenobiologist," she said, keeping her tone neutral and professional. "I may be able to help if you explain what's going on." The calmer twin, Liara, regarded Elara with a mixture of curiosity and wariness. "You are a scientist of alien biology. Perhaps you can help. But you must understand, this is a deeply private matter for our people." Nyara growled low in her throat. "We shouldn't trust the human, sister. Their kind are new to the galactic stage. They know nothing of our ways." Elara held up her hands in a placating gesture. "I understand your hesitation, but we're all trapped here together, at least for now. If there's a biological issue at play, my expertise might be valuable. I assure you, I'll respect your privacy and cultural norms." The twins exchanged a long look, seeming to communicate silently. Finally, Liara nodded. "Very well, Dr. Vance. We will explain, but you must swear by whatever you hold sacred that you will keep our confidence." "You have my word as a scientist and a representative of Earth," Elara said solemnly. Liara took a deep breath. Our species, Illyrians, have a unique reproductive cycle. Every 7 years, we enter a period called a resonance. It is a time of great biological and emotional intensity when we must find a compatible partner to mate. Ilara's eyes widened as understanding dawned. And you were approaching this resonance now. Niara nodded tersely. We were on our way to the Lyrian sector of the station where we had arranged to meet potential mates. But now, trapped here, her tail lashed in frustration. The early stages of resonance can trigger certain hormonal responses that might be picked up by the station's biofilters, Liara explained. That's likely what caused the quarantine. But if we cannot complete the mating ritual soon, the consequences could be severe. Ilara's mind raced, processing the implications. She was trapped in a small space with 2 aliens on the verge of a powerful mating drive. The scientist in her was fascinated by the biological and cultural implications. The diplomat in her recognized the potential for interspecies incident if things went poorly. And the human in her, well, that part was trying very hard not to panic. Okay, Ilara said, taking a deep breath. Let's approach this logically. First, we need more information about the quarantine protocols. Then we can work on finding a solution that respects your biology and cultural needs while ensuring everyone's safety. She turned to the nearest computer terminal, grateful for the universal interfaces mandated by the Galactic Council. Computer, status report on current quarantine. The terminal hummed to life, displaying a holographic readout. Level 1 quarantine initiated due to detection of unknown biohazard. Estimated containment period, 72 standard hours. Medical staff will evaluate all quarantined individuals. Ilara frowned. 72 hours. That's problematic. Niara let out a low keening sound. We don't have 72 hours. The resonance will reach its peak long before then. We need to get out of here. Calm yourself, sister, Liara said, though Ilara could see the strain in her eyes as well. Perhaps the human can help us explain to the authorities. Surely they'll understand once the situation is clarified. Ilara nodded, trying to project confidence she didn't entirely feel. Yes, let's try to contact someone in charge. There has to be a protocol for situations like this. As she turned back to the computer terminal, Ilara couldn't shake the feeling that her first diplomatic mission had just become far more complicated than she could have ever imagined. Trapped in a small space with 2 aliens experiencing the early stages of an intense mating cycle, she would need every ounce of her scientific knowledge and diplomatic skill to navigate the challenges ahead. The computer beeped, indicating an incoming transmission. A holographic image flickered to life, revealing the concerned face of Ilara's liaison, Zixara. Dr. Vance, are you all right? I'm so sorry about this situation. We're working to resolve the quarantine as quickly as possible. Ilara glanced at the Lyrian twins, who were watching the exchange intently. I'm fine, Zixara, but we have a delicate situation here. Is this channel secure? Zixara's bioluminescent patterns shifted to indicate affirmation. Yes, it's a private link. Good, Ilara said, choosing her words carefully. I'm here with 2 Lyrian individuals who are approaching a critical biological phase. The quarantine is interfering with a necessary ritual. We need to find a way to either end the quarantine or make special accommodations quickly. Understanding dawned in Zixara's multifaceted eyes. Oh dear, you mean they're entering resonance? This is indeed serious. I'll contact the station's xenobiology department immediately. But Dr. Vance, please be careful. Lyrians in pre-resonance can be unpredictable. The transmission ended, leaving Ilara alone again with the increasingly agitated twins. She turned to them, forcing a calm smile. Help is on the way. In the meantime, perhaps you could tell me more about the resonance. The more I understand, the better I can advocate for you. Niara paced the small space, her tail twitching. What is there to understand? Our bodies burn. Our minds cloud. We need to mate or we'll go mad. Liara placed a soothing hand on her sister's arm. It's not quite that simple, Dr. Vance. The resonance is a sacred time for our people. It's not just about physical mating, but a deep spiritual and emotional connection. Being trapped here, away from potential mates and our proper rituals, it's deeply distressing. Ilara nodded, her scientific curiosity warring with diplomatic caution. I see. And the fact that you're twins, does that affect the process? The sisters exchanged another of their silent looks. Finally, Liara spoke. Yes. Twin Lyrians often experience resonance in sync. It strengthens our bond, but also complicates matters. We need to find compatible mates who can handle the intensity of our combined resonance. As Liara spoke, Ilara noticed subtle changes in the twins' physiology. Their pupils had dilated, and a faint, shimmering aura seemed to be developing around their skin. The air in the small room felt charged, as if with static electricity. Fascinating, Ilara murmured, then caught herself. I mean, I understand this is serious. Rest assured, I'll do everything in my power to help resolve this situation quickly. Liara's ears flattened against her head. Pretty words, human. But can you truly comprehend what we're experiencing? The fire in our veins, the call that echoes in our very souls. Before Ilara could respond, the computer terminal chimed again. This time, a stern-looking alien with multiple eye stalks appeared on the screen. This is Dr. Zixlak of Nexus Station Xenobiology. We've been made aware of your situation. I'm authorizing an emergency transport to a secure medical bay where we can better assess and accommodate the Lyrians' needs. Relief washed over Ilara, but it was short-lived. As a shimmer of transported energy began to envelop them, Nyara let out a sudden feral growl. No, we will not be treated like lab specimens. She lashed out, her clawed hand striking the computer terminal. Sparks flew, and the transport beam flickered erratically. Nyara, stop, Liara cried, but it was too late. The world dissolved into a chaotic swirl of light and sensation. Ilara felt herself being pulled apart and reassembled, tumbling through space. When the vertigo finally subsided, she found herself in a dimly lit room, the air heavy with an exotic musky scent. As her eyes adjusted, Ilara realized for the start that she wasn't in the medical bay. Somehow, the damaged transport had sent them to an entirely different part of the station, and she was still trapped with the Lyrian twins, whose resonance was clearly accelerating. Nyara crouched in a corner, her eyes glowing with an inner fire. Liara stood between her sister and Ilara, her expression a mix of concern and growing arousal. Dr. Vance, Liara said, her voice husky and strained, I fear the transport malfunction has made our situation far worse. We are in a Lyrian meditation chamber, designed to enhance the effects of resonance. And now we truly are trapped. As the implications of their new predicament sank in, Ilara realized that her mission had just become far more complicated and potentially dangerous than she could have ever imagined. Trapped in an alien mating chamber with two increasingly aroused beings, she would need every ounce of her scientific knowledge, diplomatic skill, and human ingenuity to survive the challenges ahead. Cultural clash. The Lyrian meditation chamber was unlike anything Ilara had ever seen. Soft, bioluminescent panels pulsed along the walls in hypnotic patterns. The air was thick with a sweet, heady scent that made Ilara's head swim. Plush cushions and woven tapestries adorned the circular room, creating an atmosphere of sensual comfort. Ilara tried to focus, pushing aside the disorientation from the botched transport. Okay, she said, taking a deep breath. Let's assess our situation. Are either of you injured from the transport malfunction? Liara shook her head, her luminous purple skin seeming to glow brighter in the dim light. We are unharmed, Dr. Vance, but I fear the chamber's resonance-enhancing properties are accelerating our condition. Nyara paced the room's perimeter, her movements fluid and predatory. Her golden eyes never left Ilara, and there was a new intensity in her gaze that sent a shiver down the human's spine. We need to contact the station authorities, Ilara said, searching the walls for any sign of a communication panel. Let them know where we are and… No, Niara snarled, her tail lashing. No more authorities, no more tests. We are where we need to be. Ilara held up her hands in a placating gesture. I understand you're frustrated, Niara, but we can't just stay here. The station will be looking for us and your condition. Our condition. Niara's laugh was low and throaty. You understand nothing, human. This chamber calls to us, awakens something primal. Can't you feel it? In truth, Ilara could feel something. The air seemed to vibrate with an energy she couldn't quite explain. Her skin tingled and her heart raced. She chalked it up to stress and the unfamiliar environment, but a part of her wondered if there was more to it. Liara approached Ilara slowly, her movements graceful despite the obvious tension in her body. Dr. Vance, there's something you need to understand about Lyrian biology. Our resonance isn't just a mating drive. It's a powerful psychic and empathic event. In this chamber, designed to amplify those energies. She trailed off, looking uncertain for the first time since Ilara had met her. Ilara's scientific curiosity warred with a growing sense of unease. What are you saying, Liara? The Lyrian's golden eyes met Ilara's, filled with a mixture of apology and something darker, more primal. I'm saying that your presence here, as the only other sentient being, means you're becoming entangled in our resonance. Ilara's eyes widened as the implications sank in. But I'm not Lyrian. Surely it can't affect me the same way. Niara's purring laugh sent another shiver through Ilara. Oh, little human, you have no idea of the forces you're dealing with. As if to underscore Niara's words, a wave of something washed over Ilara. Heat flooded her body, and for a moment, her vision swam with colors she had no names for. She staggered, catching herself against the wall. What? What was that? She gasped. Liara steadied her with a gentle hand. The touch sent sparks racing along Ilara's skin. That was just a taste of resonance, Dr. Vance. I'm sorry. We should have realized the danger sooner. Ilara's scientific mind raced, trying to make sense of the situation. This is unprecedented. Cross-species empathic resonance on this scale. The implications are staggering. Liara growled softly. Always a scientist. Even now, you try to analyze and categorize. Some things are beyond your human understanding. Then help me understand, Ilara said, forcing herself to meet Niara's intense gaze. You say I don't comprehend what you're going through. So explain it to me. Not just the biology, but the cultural significance. What does resonance truly mean to your people? For a moment, Niara looked taken aback by Ilara's directness. She exchanged a glance with Liara, who nodded encouragingly. Niara sighed, some of the aggression leaving her posture. Resonance is everything. It's how we connect, how we grow, how we create new life. But it's more than just reproduction. It's a spiritual journey, a merging of souls. Liara picked up the explanation. In ancient times, before we achieved spaceflight, Lyrians would undertake great pilgrimages to sacred sites during resonance. The journey itself was part of the ritual, preparing body and mind for the intensity of the experience. And now, Ilara asked, genuinely fascinated despite the gravity of their situation. Now we've adapted, Liara said. We have special sanctuaries on our homeworld and major colonies. The meditation chamber we're in now is a poor substitute, but it follows similar principles. Liara's tail twitched restlessly. But it's not just about a place. Resonance is about finding a perfect match, someone whose energy complements your own. For twins like us, it's even more complex. We need partners who can balance both of our energies. Ilara nodded slowly, pieces starting to fall into place. So when the quarantine interrupted your search for suitable mates, it was more than an inconvenience, Liara finished. It was a disruption of a sacred right, a denial of our deepest needs. I think I'm starting to understand, Ilara said, And she was, at least intellectually, but understanding didn't solve their immediate problem. Another wave of energy pulsed through the chamber. This time, Ilara was more prepared, but it still left her gasping. She noticed that the twins were affected too, their skin shimming with an inner light. "We're running out of time," Nyara said, her voice tight with barely contained need. "The resonance is building. Soon we won't be able to control ourselves." Alarm shot through Ilara. What happens then? Liara's expression was grave. In the worst cases, Lyrians driven mad by unfulfilled resonance have been known to lash out violently. It's rare, but... She didn't need to finish the sentence. Ilara understood the danger all too well. She was trapped in a small space with two increasingly unstable aliens, and her presence was only exacerbating the problem. "Okay," Ilara said, trying to keep her voice steady. "We need a plan. There has to be a way to either dampen the effects of this chamber or signal for help." Ilara laughed bitterly. "Always trying to solve the problem. Aren't you human? Can't you see that we are beyond such simple solutions now?" But Ilara's mind was already racing, analyzing the chamber's design, looking for any hint of control mechanisms. There had to be a way to regulate the energy field, to buy them time. As she scanned the room, her gaze fell on a panel near the floor, partially hidden by a decorative tapestry. It looked different from the other wall sections, with a faint seam outlining its edges. "There," she said, pointing. "That might be an access panel. If I can get it open, maybe I can find a way to control the chamber's output." Liara looked skeptical. "Dr. Vance, I'm not sure that's wise. Tampering with Lyrian technology, especially in a sacred space like this." But Ilara was already moving towards the panel, her scientific curiosity and problem-solving instinct overriding caution. "We have to try something. The longer we stay here, the more dangerous it becomes for all of us." As she reached for the panel, Nyara suddenly blocked her path, moving within human speed. The Lyrian's eyes blazed with inner fire, and her voice was a low, dangerous purr. "No, little human, you will not interfere with the sacred energies. It's time you understood what resonance truly means." Before Ilara could react, Nyara's hand shot out, fingers splaying across Ilara's forehead. The world exploded into light and sensation. Ilara felt herself falling, tumbling through a kaleidoscope of memories and emotions that weren't her own. She saw a young Nyara and Liara playing in fields of shimmering purple grass under twin moons. She felt the deep, unbreakable bond between the sisters, a connection that went beyond mere blood relation. She experienced the first stirrings of resonance, the mixture of excitement and terror as their bodies began to change, preparing for a cosmic dance as old as their species. And underlying it all, a sense of longing so profound it took Ilara's breath away, a need for connection, for completion, that went beyond anything she had ever known. When Nyara finally broke the connection, Ilara fell to her knees, gasping. Tears streamed down her face, and her entire body trembled with the aftermath of the psychic contact. "Now do you understand?" Nyara asked, her voice softer now, almost gentle. "This is what we face. This is the power you've stumbled into." Ilara looked up at the Lyrian twins, seeing them with new eyes. The cultural divide suddenly seemed both vastly wider and strangely insignificant in the face of what she had experienced. I had no idea," she whispered. "I'm so sorry. I didn't truly understand until now." Liara knelt beside her, placing a comforting hand on Ilara's shoulder. "Few outsiders ever do, Dr. Vance. But now that you've glimpsed the truth of resonance, perhaps you can help us navigate this crisis. Not as a scientist or a diplomat, but as someone who has touched the heart of our experience." Ilara nodded slowly, her mind reeling from the implications of what she had seen and felt. She realized that her approach up to this point had been fundamentally flawed. She couldn't treat this like a simple biological process or a diplomatic incident to be managed. This was something far deeper, far more profound. And as the energy in the chamber continued to build, Ilara knew that her next actions would have consequences far beyond this room, potentially shaping the future of human-Lyrian relations for generations to come. With shaking hands, she pushed herself to her feet, facing the Lyrian twins. "All right," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Let's figure this out together. Not as different species, but as beings caught in something greater than ourselves." As another wave of resonance energy washed over them, Ilara steeled herself for whatever challenges lay ahead. She had come to Nexus Station seeking to secure humanity's place in the galactic community. Now, she realized, the true test of humanity's readiness for that role was just beginning. Crisis and cooperation. The Lyrian meditation chamber pulsed with ever-increasing intensity, the bioluminescent walls now a riot of swirling colors. Ilara's head throbbed, her body alternating between waves of heat and chills. The psychic contact with Niara had left her reeling, her perception of reality fundamentally altered. "We need to focus," Ilara said, her voice hoarse. "The resonance is affecting all of us now. We have to find a way to stabilize the situation before we lose control completely." Liara nodded, her usual calm demeanor strained. "You're right, Dr. Vance. But how?" This chamber was designed to amplify resonance, not contain it. Niara paced restlessly, her movements becoming more erratic. "There is no containing this. We must complete the resonance or—" She was cut off by a sudden violent tremor that shook the entire chamber. The lights flickered, and for a moment, the oppressive psychic energy seemed to waver. "What was that?" Ilara gasped, steadying herself against the wall. Liara's eyes widened in alarm. "That felt like a station-wide disturbance. Something's wrong." As if in response to her words, a klaxon began to blare, muffled, but audible through the chamber walls. A moment later, an automated voice crackled to life, distorted but understandable. "Attention all Nexus Station inhabitants. A critical failure has been detected in the primary power core. Emergency protocols are now in effect. Please remain calm and proceed to your designated evacuation areas." The three occupants of the meditation chamber exchanged looks of shock and growing fear. "Evacuation," Ilara breathed. "The station must be in serious danger." Niara snarled in frustration. "We're trapped in here. How are we supposed to evacuate?" Ilara's mind raced, analyzing their options. The crisis outside had momentarily broken through the haze of resonance, giving her a clarity she desperately needed. "Okay, let's think this through," she said, forcing herself to remain calm. "This chamber must have emergency protocols of its own. Liara, you're more familiar with Lyrian technology. Can you sense any change in the room's energy field?" Liara closed her eyes, concentrating. After a moment, she nodded. Yes, I think so. The amplification effect is weakening. The chamber must be reverting to a neutral state in response to the station-wide alert." "Good," Ilara said. "That should help clear our heads a bit. Now, we need to find a way out. Niara, you mentioned earlier that we're where we need to be. Does that mean you know more about this chamber's layout?" Niara hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. There's a hidden exit. It's meant as an emergency measure, in case the resonance becomes too intense and participants need to separate quickly." "Why didn't you mention this before?" Ilara asked, trying to keep the accusation out of her voice. "Because it goes against everything the resonance represents." Niara snapped. "To use it is to admit failure, to deny the sacred bond." Liara placed a gentle hand on her sister's arm. "Niara, I understand. But surely this qualifies as an emergency. The entire station could be at risk." The tension in the room was palpable as Niara wrestled with her instincts and cultural programming. Finally, she let out a long, shuddering breath. "You're right, both of you. I'll show you the exit." As Niara moved to a seemingly blank section of wall, Ilara felt a surge of relief, quickly tempered by the realization that their problems were far from over. They still had to navigate a station in crisis, all while dealing with the lingering effects of resonance. Niara pressed a complex series of patterns on the wall, and a hidden door slid open with a soft hiss. Beyond lay a dimly lit corridor. "This will lead us to a main thoroughfare," Niara explained. "From there, we should be able to reach an evacuation point." As they stepped into the corridor, another tremor shook the station, more violent than the last. The lights flickered ominously. "We need to hurry," Ilara said, taking charge. "Liara, you take the lead since you're most familiar with the station's layout. Niara, you bring up the rear. I'll stay between you in case either of you needs support." The Lyrian twins nodded, falling into formation without argument. As they moved swiftly through the corridor, Ilara marveled at how quickly their dynamic had shifted. The crisis had forced them to set aside their cultural differences and work together. They emerged into a main corridor of Nexus Station, and chaos greeted them. Beings of all species rushed past, some calm and orderly, others in clear panic. The station's alarms blared, and emergency lights cast an eerie red glow over everything. The nearest evacuation point should be 2 levels up, Liara shouted over the noise. "There's a gravity lift just ahead." As they pushed through the crowd, Ilara's scientific mind couldn't help but analyze their surroundings. The station's power fluctuations were growing more severe, and she could feel a subtle vibration through the deck plating that spoke of deeper structural issues. They reached the gravity lift, only to find it packed with panicking aliens. Niara growled in frustration, her resonance-heightened emotions barely in check. "We'll never fit in there," she said. "We need another way up." Ilara's eyes darted around, searching for alternatives. She spotted a maintenance hatch partially hidden behind a decorative panel. "There," she pointed. "That might lead to service tunnels. It's risky, but it could be faster than waiting for the lift." Liara looked uncertain. "Those tunnels aren't meant for civilian use. They could be dangerous." Another violent tremor rocked the station, and the gravity lift sputtered, stranding its occupants between floors. Screams and shouts filled the air. "We don't have a choice," Ilara said firmly. "Come on." She led the way to the maintenance hatch, grateful for the basic engineering courses she'd taken as part of her xenobiology training. It took a moment to figure out the alien locking mechanism, but soon they were crawling into a narrow service tunnel. The space was tight, forcing them to move single file. Ilara could feel the heat radiating from the Lyrian twins behind her, a reminder that their resonance was far from resolved. But for now, survival took precedence. They climbed through a maze of tunnels, guided by Ilara's best guess at the station's layout and Liara's occasional insights. The air grew thicker, filled with an acrid smell that made Ilara's eyes water. "Something's burning," Liara said, her voice tight with worry. "The power core breach must be worse than we thought," Ilara replied. "We need tow." Her words were cut off as the tunnel suddenly bumped beneath them. There was a terrible screech of tearing metal, and then they were falling. Ilara tumbled through darkness, her body slamming against hard surfaces. She heard the twins cry out, their voices lost in the cacophony of twisting metal and crumbling infrastructure. When the world finally stopped spinning, Ilara found herself sprawled on a cold floor, her body aching from the fall. As her vision cleared, she realized they had landed in some kind of maintenance bay. Sparking cables hung from the ceiling, and the air was thick with smoke. "Liara, Niara," she called out, coughing. "Here," came Liara's pained reply. I'm okay, Niara." There was a moment of terrifying silence before Niara's voice answered, weak but alive. "I'm here, but I'm trapped. Something's pinning me down." Ilara struggled to her feet, fighting waves of dizziness. She saw Liara doing the same a few meters away. Together, they made their way to where Niara lay, partially buried under a fallen section of ceiling. "Don't move," Ilara instructed, assessing the situation. "We'll get you out." But as she examined the debris trapping Niara, her heart sank. The metal was too heavy for them to lift, and shifting it carelessly could cause further injury. "We need help," Liara said, her voice trembling. "But everyone's evacuating. Who would even hear us down here?" Ilara's mind raced, searching for a solution. Her gaze fell on a battered computer terminal on the far wall, miraculously still functioning. "The station's internal communications might still be working," she said. "If I can access them, maybe I can send out a distress call." She hurried to the terminal, her fingers flying over the alien interface. Years of working with diverse xenotechnology paid off as she navigated the system, searching for a way to broadcast their location. Behind her, she could hear Liara speaking softly to Niara, words of comfort in their native language. The bond between the twins was palpable, transcending the physical distance between them. As Ilara worked, she became aware of a growing warmth in her chest, a connection to the Lyrians that went beyond their shared predicament. The remnants of resonance energy still coursed through her, creating an empathic link she didn't fully understand but instinctively embraced. Finally, the terminal chimed in success. Ilara had managed to patch into the emergency broadcast system. "This is Dr. Ilara Vance," she spoke into the comm, her voice steady despite her fear. "I'm trapped in a maintenance bay with 2 Lyrian citizens. One is injured and needs immediate assistance. Please respond." For a long moment, there was only static. Then, miraculously, a voice crackled through. "Dr. Vance, this is station security. We've locked onto your signal. Emergency responders are en route to your location. Hold tight." Relief washed over Ilara, but it was short-lived. Another violent tremor shook the station, and warning lights began flashing on the terminal screen. "The power core is reaching critical levels," Ilara called to the twins. "We don't have much time." Liara's voice was strained but determined. "Leave me. You two need to get out while you can." "No," Liara cried. "We won't abandon you, sister." Ilara felt the surge of emotion between the twins, their bond amplified by the lingering resonance energy. In that moment, she made a decision that would change all their lives forever. "We're staying together," she said firmly, moving back to the twins. "All of us." She knelt beside Niara, placing one hand on the trapped Lyrian and reaching out to clasp Liara's hand with the other. As their skin made contact, Ilara felt a surge of energy unlike anything she had ever experienced. The resonance, held at bay by the crisis, suddenly roared to life. But this time, instead of chaotic and overwhelming, it felt focused, purposeful. Ilara could sense the twins' life force, their hopes and fears, as clearly as her own. "What's happening?" Liara gasped, her eyes wide with wonder. "I don't know," Ilara admitted, "but I think we're completing the resonance. Together." As the energy flowed between them, Ilara felt a strength beyond her own filling her body. With a surge of power she didn't know she possessed, she gripped the debris pinning Niara and lifted. Metal groaned and shifted, and suddenly Niara was free. The 3 of them clung to each other, panting and overwhelmed by the intensity of their connection. In that moment, as alarms blared and the station shuddered around them, Ilara realized that they had stumbled upon something unprecedented, a human participating in Lyrian resonance, bridging the gap between their species in a way no one had thought possible. As the sound of approaching rescuers echoed through the maintenance bay, Ilara knew that their ordeal was far from over. But whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, bound by an experience that defied explanation and transcended the boundaries of their respective worlds. The universe, it seemed, had much more to teach them all. Escape and evolution. The maintenance bay trembled as another shockwave rippled through Nexus Station. Ilara, Niara, and Liara clung to each other, their bodies still humming with the aftereffects of their shared resonance. The sound of approaching rescuers grew louder, a counterpoint to the station's wailing alarms. "Over here." Ilara called out, her voice hoarse from smoke and exertion. A team of emergency responders burst into the room, their environmental suits marking them as a mixed-species group trained for space station disasters. The lead responder, a tall, insectoid being, paused momentarily at the sight before them, a human and two Lyrians, bodies intertwined, surrounded by a faint, shimmering aura of energy. "We need to move," now the responder said, their translator conveying urgency. "The station's power core is reaching critical levels. We have minutes, not hours." As the team rushed forward to assist them, Ilara felt a sudden sharp pain in her head. Judging by the twins' simultaneous gasps, they felt it too. The resonance bond between them pulsed, conveying a sense of imminent danger that went beyond the physical crisis around them. "Wait," Ilara said, holding up a hand to stop the rescuers. "Something's wrong. I can feel it." Niara nodded, her golden eyes wide. "The station, it's more than just a power failure. There's something else." The lead responder tilted their head, compound eyes glittering with confusion and impatience. "What are you talking about? We don't have time for this." Liara stepped forward, her voice calm but intense. "Please, listen to us. We've undergone a unique bonding experience that's given us heightened sensitivity to energy fluctuations. There's a pattern to the station's tremors that doesn't match a simple core breach." Ilara's scientific mind raced, processing the information flowing through their shared connection. She's right. The vibrations, they're too regular, almost like a pulse, Niara finished, like something's trying to break free. The responders exchanged uneasy glances. The lead insectoid seemed to come to a decision. "All right, we'll report your observations to command, but we still need to evacuate. Can you walk?" Ilara nodded, helping Niara to her feet. The Lyrian winced but stood steadily. Whatever injuries she had sustained in the fall seemed to have been at least partially healed by their shared resonance. As they made their way out of the maintenance bay, following the responders through emergency corridors, Ilara marveled at the changes in her perception. She could feel the twins' presence in her mind, a warm, comforting connection that defied her understanding of biology and physics. More than that, she felt attuned to the station itself, aware of subtle energy currents and vibrations that she'd never noticed before. They emerged into a larger corridor, joining a stream of evacuees heading towards the escape pods. The air was thick with fear and confusion, a cacophony of alien languages as beings from across the galaxy sought safety. Suddenly, Liara stumbled, clutching her head. "It's getting stronger," she gasped. "Whatever's causing this, it's building towards something big." Ilara felt it too, a growing pressure at the base of her skull. She turned to the lead responder. "We need to speak to whoever's in charge of the evacuation. There's more going on here than a simple mechanical failure." The insectoid hesitated, then nodded. "Follow me." The station administrator is coordinating efforts from a command post near the main docking bay. As they pushed through the crowds, Ilara couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. The station's tremors were increasing in frequency and intensity, and flashes of alien imagery kept intruding on her thoughts, glimpses of vast, crystalline structures and swirling energies that defied description. They reached the command post, a makeshift array of holographic displays and communication terminals. A harried-looking alien with 4 arms and iridescent scales looked up as they approached. Administrator Zexalor, the lead responder, said, "These individuals claim to have important information about the station's condition." The administrator's multifaceted eyes narrowed. "We're in the middle of evacuating 10,000 beings from a failing station. Whatever you have to say, make it quick." Ilara stepped forward, drawing on every ounce of her diplomatic training. "Sir, I'm Dr. Ilara Vance, xenobiologist and representative of Earth. These are Liara and Niara, citizens of Lyria. We've undergone a unique bonding experience that's given us heightened perception of energy patterns. We believe the station's crisis is more than a simple mechanical failure." Zexalor's scales rippled with skepticism. "And what exactly do you think is happening, Dr. Vance?" Niara spoke up, her voice strong despite her recent ordeal. "The station is alive, Administrator. Or something inside it is. We can feel it trying to awaken, to break free." The administrator's laughter was sharp and dismissive. Preposterous. Nexus Station is a marvel of engineering, but it's not a living entity. We don't have time for wild theories and mystical nonsense. Ilara felt a surge of frustration, both her own and echoed through her bond with the twins. She was about to argue further when a violent tremor shook the command post. Alarms blared with renewed urgency, and several holographic displays flickered and died. "Report," Zexlor barked. A junior officer, their tentacles flying over a control panel, responded with panic in their voice. "Sir, energy readings are off the charts. The core breach has accelerated, but there's something else. Some kind of exotic particle emission we can't identify." Ilara exchanged a look with the Lyrian twins. Through their bond, she felt a shared sense of vindication and growing alarm. "Administrator," she said, her voice firm, "you need to listen to us. We might be the only ones who can understand what's really happening here. Let us help." Zexuel hesitated, multiple limbs twitching with indecision. Finally, he nodded. "Fine. What do you propose?" Liara stepped forward, her eyes unfocused, as if seeing something beyond the physical realm. "We need to get to the heart of the station, to the source of these energy pulses. I think it's trying to communicate." "Communicate?" The administrator sputtered. "With whom?" "With us," Niara said simply. "With anyone who can hear it. But the awakening is causing the station's systems to fail. If we don't find a way to stabilize it, to guide the process." She didn't need to finish the sentence. They all knew the stakes. The lives of thousands of beings hung in the balance. Zexuel's scales shifted through a range of colors before settling on a determined blue. "This is madness. But we're out of options. What do you need?" Ilara's mind raced, formulating a plan. Access to the station's central core, and a way to interface with its primary systems. And she hesitated, knowing how it would sound. "We need to be left alone. The fewer beings present, the clearer our connection will be." The administrator stared at them for a long moment, then barked orders to his staff. Within minutes, they were being escorted to a restricted lift that would take them deep into the heart of Nexus Station. As the lift descended, Ilara felt the resonance bond between her and the Lyrian twins intensify. Images and sensations flooded her mind, fractals of impossible complexity, waves of energy that sang with alien harmonies, and an overwhelming sense of ancient, patient intelligence slowly stirring to wakefulness. "What are we going to do when we get there?" Niara asked, her voice tight with a mixture of fear and excitement. Ilara took a deep breath, centering herself in the maelstrom of sensations. "We're going to do what humanity does best," she said with a small smile. "We're going to adapt, improvise, and find a way to communicate with something beyond our understanding. Together." The lift slowed to a stop, and the door slid open to reveal a vast, glowing chamber. At its center, a pulsing pillar of energy stretched from floor to ceiling, tendrils of light reaching out like living things. As they stepped into the chamber, Ilara felt a profound shift in the energy around them. The resonance bond flared to new intensity, and she knew that whatever happened next would change not just their lives, but the course of interstellar relations forever. With the station shuddering around them and the lives of thousands hanging in the balance, Ilara, Niara, and Liara moved as one towards the heart of Nexus Station, ready to face whatever cosmic mystery awaited them. Cosmic confluence. The central core of Nexus Station pulsed with otherworldly energy, bathing Ilara and the Lyrian twins in waves of shimmering light. The air crackled with ozone and something else, an indescribable scent that seemed to bypass Ilara's nose and register directly in her mind. "It's beautiful," Liara whispered, her golden eyes wide with wonder. Niara nodded, her usual bravado tempered by awe, and terrifying. Ilara could only agree. The pulsing pillar of energy before them defied her scientific understanding, yet through their shared resonance, she felt a deep connection to it. It was alive, or something very close to it, and it was reaching out. Another violent tremor shook the chamber. reminding them of the urgency of their situation. Elara forced herself to focus, drawing on every scrap of her scientific training and the new, inexplicable senses granted by the resonance. "We need to establish contact," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "But how?" Lara stepped forward, her movements fluid and purposeful. "In our most sacred resonance rituals, we use a form of meditation to align our energies. Perhaps—" She didn't finish the thought, but Elara and Liara understood through their bond. Without speaking, the three of them formed a circle, joining hands. The contact sent a jolt through Elara, intensifying their connection. "Focus on the energy," Liara murmured. "Let it flow through us, between us." Elara closed her eyes, concentrating on the ebb and flow of the resonance. She could feel the twins' presences, bright and warm in her mind. And beyond that, something vast and ancient, curious and confused. Slowly, cautiously, Elara extended her thoughts towards that immense consciousness. She felt the twins doing the same, their energies intertwining with hers, creating a bridge between the human, the Lyrians, and the awakening entity. Images flooded Elara's mind, too fast and alien to fully comprehend. Eons of dormancy, dreams of cosmic scale, the slow stirring to awareness as countless beings lived and worked and loved within its body. Nexus Station wasn't just a structure, it was an egg, a cocoon, and the being within was finally ready to emerge. But the emergence was causing chaos, threatening the very creatures that had unknowingly nurtured it for so long. The entity didn't want to harm them, but it didn't know how to control its own awakening. "We need to guide it," Elara gasped, the realization hitting her with the force of revelation. "Show it how to emerge without destroying the station." Through their bond, she felt the twins' agreement and support. Together, they focused their thoughts, creating a mental image of controlled energy flow, of systems adapting and evolving rather than breaking down. The entity's vast mind touched theirs, curious, eager to learn. Elara felt as though she were teaching a cosmic infant, showing it how to take its first steps without stumbling. It was exhilarating and terrifying in equal measure. Sweat beaded on Elara's brow as she poured every ounce of her concentration into the task. She could feel the strain on the twins as well, their bodies trembling with effort. But slowly, gradually, they felt a shift in the station's energy. The violent tremors began to subside, replaced by a steady, rhythmic pulsing. The chaotic surges of power smoothed out, channeling into new pathways that strengthened rather than destroyed the station's structure. Through it all, Elara felt the entity's growing awareness, its childlike wonder at the complexity of the world it was joining. There was gratitude too, and a deep, abiding curiosity about the beings that had helped it. Just as Elara thought they had succeeded, but the crisis was averted, a new alarm blared through the chamber. The trio's eyes snapped open, their concentration broken. "Warning," an automated voice announced. "Quantum fluctuations detected in the station's outer hull. Spatial distortion imminent." "What does that mean?" Niara demanded, her voice tight with renewed fear. Elara's scientific mind raced, processing the implications. The entity, it's not just awakening. It's about to transform, to evolve into something beyond physical space as we understand it. "But what about the station?" Liara asked. "What about all the people still on board?" Before Elara could respond, the entity's presence flooded their minds once more. This time, its thoughts were clearer, more focused. It understood the danger it posed to the smaller beings it had come to care for, and it was asking for help, for guidance in its final metamorphosis. "It wants us to show it how to transcend without harming the station," Elara realized aloud. "But I don't know how. This is beyond anything in human science." Liara's grip on Elara's hand tightened. "Then we'll have to go beyond science. Our oldest legends speak of beings that could shape reality itself. Perhaps together, we can tap into that potential." Liara nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "We've already done the impossible by bonding across species. Why stop now? Ilara took a deep breath, steadying herself. They were right. They had come too far to give up now. All right, let's do this. For the station, for everyone on board, for the future of interspecies cooperation. Once more, they closed their eyes, joining their minds in shared purpose. But this time, instead of simply communicating with the entity, they opened themselves fully to its vast consciousness. Ilara felt as though she were falling into an ocean of starlight. Her awareness expanded beyond the confines of her body, beyond the station, beyond the very concept of physical space. She was everywhere and everywhere at once, witnessing the birth and death of galaxies, the dance of dimensions beyond human comprehension. Through it all, she clung to her connection with the Lyrian twins, their presences anchoring her in the cosmic maelstrom. Together, they guided the entity, showing it how to transcend material form without disrupting the fabric of space-time around it. It was like teaching a newborn star how to shine, like coaxing a supernova to bloom without destroying its stellar neighborhood. Ilara drew on everything she knew of physics, biology, and the fundamental forces of the universe. The twins contributed their species' deep spiritual understanding of energy and consciousness. And slowly, miraculously, it began to work. Ilara felt the station changing around them, not breaking apart but evolving. Walls became permeable, energy conduits transformed into flowing rivers of light. The very concept of inside and outside began to blur. With a final, triumphant surge of effort, they guided the entity through its metamorphosis. There was a moment of absolute stillness, a pause between heartbeats that seemed to stretch into eternity. Then, with a silent explosion of light and sensation, it was done. Ilara's awareness snapped back to her body. She found herself still standing in the central chamber, hands clasped with the Lyrian twins. But the chamber was transformed. The walls shimmered with iridescent patterns, and gravity seemed more a suggestion than a law. Did we do it? Nyara asked, her voice filled with wonder. Before anyone could answer, a new presence made itself known. Not the vast, overwhelming consciousness of before, but something more focused, more personal. You did, a voice said, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. You have given me form, purpose, and understanding. I am grateful. Ilara's scientific mind struggled to process what her senses were telling her. The station, you're the station now. A ripple of amusement flowed through the air. I am more than the station, and the station is more than it was. Thanks to you, I found a way to exist in harmony with the beings who call this place home. Nexus Station will continue to be a hub of interstellar cooperation, but now it will also be a gateway to realms beyond. Liara's eyes widened. A gateway, you mean? The possibilities are endless, the entity confirmed. But they will unfold in time, as all of us learn and grow together. Ilara felt a wave of emotion wash over her, relief, excitement, and a profound sense of having been part of something truly extraordinary. She turned to the Lyrian twins, seeing her own feelings reflected in their eyes. We should probably let the administrator know that the crisis is over, she said with a small laugh, the mundane concern feeling almost absurd after what they had just experienced. Nyara grinned, some of her old swagger returning. Oh, I think they'll figure it out pretty quickly. Things are about to get very interesting around here. As if in response to her words, the chamber's walls rippled, and a window to the stars opened before them. But it was unlike any view of space Ilara had ever seen. Color she had no names but danced between the familiar pinpricks of light and shapes that shouldn't exist in three-dimensional space, folded and unfolded in mesmerizing patterns. Welcome, the entity said, its voice warm with possibility, to the new age of Nexus Station. Your journey, our journey, is just beginning. Ilara squeezed the twins' hands, feeling the resonance bond hum between them. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, human, Lyrian, a newborn cosmic entity united in a shared adventure of discovery. As the transformed Nexus Station pulsed with new life around them, Ilara knew that the universe would never be the same. And neither would they. New Horizons. The days following the transformation of Nexus Station were a whirlwind of activity, confusion, and wonder. As news of the station's metamorphosis spread throughout the galaxy, beings from every corner of known space clamored for information and access. Elara, Nyara, and Liara found themselves at the center of it all, trying to explain an experience that defied conventional understanding. They stood before a hastily assembled galactic council, a diverse array of species represented on holographic displays surrounding them. Dr. Vance, a gravelly voice belonging to an ancient, tree-like being, asked, "Can you explain, in scientific terms, exactly what has happened to Nexus Station?" Elara took a deep breath, feeling the reassuring presence of the Lyrian twins through their persistent resonance bond. "Counselor, I'll do my best, but I must emphasize that what we experienced goes beyond our current scientific understanding." She went on to describe the awakening of a cosmic entity, their role in guiding its emergence, and the subsequent transformation of the station. As she spoke, holographic models illustrated her words, showing the station's new ability to exist simultaneously in normal space and somewhere else. In essence, Elara concluded, Nexus Station has become a living bridge between dimensions. It remains a functional space station and diplomatic hub, but it's also now a gateway to realms we're only beginning to comprehend. A murmur ran through the assembled council members. An avian being with iridescent feathers ruffled in agitation. "This is unprecedented. The security implications alone are considerable," Nyara cut in, her voice firm. "But so are the opportunities. Think of the scientific and spiritual advancements possible with access to higher dimensions." Liara nodded in agreement. "Our experience has shown that cooperation between species, a melding of different perspectives and abilities, is key to navigating these new frontiers." The debate raged for hours, with questions of jurisdiction, safety protocols, and research priorities flying back and forth. Through it all, Elara marveled at how seamlessly she and the Lyrian twins worked together, their thoughts and intentions flowing in perfect harmony. Finally, a consensus was reached. Nexus Station would remain open, but under strict regulation. A new joint task force, with representatives from all major galactic civilizations, would oversee its operations and study its unique properties. As the council session adjourned, Administrator Zexlor approached the trio, his scales shimmering with a mix of colors Elara now recognized as indicating respect and lingering bewilderment. "I owe you an apology," he said, his multiple limbs moving in a gesture of contrition. "If I had not listened to you, however reluctantly, we might have lost everything. Instead, you've ushered in a new era of galactic exploration." Elara smiled, feeling the twins' shared sense of pride and accomplishment. "We only did what anyone would do in that situation, Administrator. We adapted and worked together." Zexoa's eyes twinkled with amusement. "I doubt that, Dr. Vance. Your unique bond with the Lyrians made this possible. Speaking of which, have you given any thought to your future plans?" The question caught Elara off guard. In the chaos of recent events, she hadn't had time to consider the long-term implications of her experience. She glanced at Nyara and Liara, feeling a wave of affection and uncertainty through their bond. We haven't really discussed it," she admitted. Nyara stepped closer, her hand brushing Elara's in a gesture that sent tingles up her arm. "We should talk about that, shouldn't we?" Liara nodded, her golden eyes soft with emotion. "Whatever we decide, I don't think any of us want to simply go back to our old lives. Not after what we've shared." Zexalor cleared his throat, or whatever passed for a throat in his species' anatomy. "Well, if I may make a suggestion, the new task force will need leaders who understand both the scientific and metaphysical aspects of our transformed station. Beings who can bridge the gap between species, just as Nexus now bridges dimensions." Elara's eyes widened as she grasped the administrator's meaning. "Are you offering us positions?" "Unofficially for now," Zexalor said with a gesture that might have been a shrug. "There will be paperwork, approvals. You know how bureaucracy is, even on a galactic scale. But yes, essentially, the possibility hung in the air between them, filled with both excitement and trepidation. Ilara reached out, taking one of Niara's hands and one of Liara's, completing their circle. In that moment of connection, a flood of emotions and half-formed thoughts flowed between them. Ilara saw flashes of possible futures, expeditions into unknown dimensions, diplomatic meetings with beings of pure energy, quiet moments of shared discovery and deepening bonds. "I think," Ilara said slowly, speaking for all of them, "that we would be honored to help guide Nexus Station into this new era, assuming, of course, that our respective governments approve." Zexelos scales rippled with satisfaction. "Excellent. I'll start the process immediately. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have about 1,000 messages from curious scientists and spiritual leaders to answer." As the administrator hurried off, Ilara turned to fully face her Lyrian companions. The depths of emotion in their eyes took her breath away. "So," Niara said, a hint of her old mischievous grin returning, "I guess you've stuck with us for a while longer, Dr. Vance." Ilara laughed, feeling lighter than she had in days. "I can think of far worse fates. But please, after everything we've been through, I think you can call me Ilara." Liara's grip on Ilara's hand tightened slightly. "Ilara," she said, as if tasting the name. "Our Ilara. I like the sound of that." The double meaning wasn't lost on any of them. Their resonance bond hummed with unspoken questions and possibilities. There would be challenges ahead, cultural differences to navigate, the complexities of a relationship that defied easy categorization, not to mention the mind-bending nature of their new work. But as they stood there, hands clasped and hearts aligned, Ilara knew that together they could face anything the universe threw at them. A soft chime interrupted the moment, followed by the now familiar voice of Nexus Station's new consciousness. "Pardon the intrusion, but I thought you might like to see this." The wall before them shimmered and became transparent, revealing a view of space that stole Ilara's breath away. Stars wheeled in impossible patterns, their light refracting through higher dimensions. In the distance, a swirling portal of energy pulsed invitingly. "Your presence has awakened curiosities long dormant," the station said. "There are others out there, in realms beyond conventional space. They're reaching out, hoping to connect." Ilara felt a thrill of excitement run through her, echoed and amplified by the twins' reactions. This was why she had become a xenobiologist, why she had journeyed into the depths of space. To explore, to discover, to forge connections across the vastness of the cosmos. "Well then," she said, squeezing the twins' hands. "Shall we go say hello?" Niara's grin was fierce and joyful. "Try and stop us." Together, Liara added softly, "Always together." As one, they stepped forward, ready to embrace whatever wonders awaited them beyond the threshold of known space. The transformed Nexus Station hummed around them, a living gateway to realms of infinite possibility. Ilara's last thought, before they took their first step into a new reality, was that the universe was vast and full of mysteries, but with love, trust, and the bonds they had forged, there was nothing they couldn't face. The adventure of a lifetime, of many lifetimes, was just beginning.